Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Star Trek Beyond, starring Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Carl Urban, Zoe Saldana, Simon Pegg, John Cho, Anton Yelchin, Idris Elba, and Sofia Boutella. Forgive me if I said that wrong. And directed by Justin Lin. Now, I have seen this before in movie theaters, might I add, ladies and gentlemen. And what do I think of it? Let's get into it. Captain Jim Kirk, returned by Chris Pine, has a birthday at an age that is older than his father George, who died at the beginning of the first film, and along with his crew members, Spook, returned by Zachary Quinto, Bones, returned by Carl Urban, Uhura, returned by Zoe Saldana, Scotty, returned by Simon Pegg, Sulu, returned by John Cho, and Chekhov, returned by Anton Yelchin, who died before this movie ever came out. May he rest in peace. Are aboard the USS Enterprise as they land on Earth, and the audience learns three things. 1. Spock and Uhura broke up in between films, which was off screen. 2. Sulu is married and is a homosexual. And 3. Spock Prime, who was Leonard Nimoy in this series, or the original Spock, let's say, has passed away, but he died before this movie was in production. And honestly, I'm not sure if I'm having as good a time with these characters as in the 2009 Star Trek movie, nor am I having a bad time as I did with Star Trek Into Darkness. And Jim wants to promote Spook as captain of the Enterprise, while Jim is thinking of retirement, which I'll talk about more later. And for now, they're on a mission because of an alien creature experienced something horrible on an unknown planet after the Enterprise crash lands, and the crew gets separated as half of them get captured by Krall, played by Idris Elba. And it's spelled with a K, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, who I like as an actor, but his character we have to learn more about when the movie progresses, because the movie does a really crummy job at telling us his plan with Federation. After the Enterprise crashes on the unknown planet and separates with Scotty, we start with Scotty, excuse me, getting off his pod on the cliff. Jim figured out the passenger / prisoner was lying about what the plot of is as Chekhov is there. Uhura talks with Kroll, and I couldn't help but notice in that scene her hair was in different places during that scene. For example, like during takes, for example. Part of her hair was over the front shoulder as one take, and her hair was in the back as another other shoulder, which was another take. And it was very distracting, by the way. Bones sees Spook is wounded and heals him with some odd dialogue, as this time is very corny. Scotty's saved from the criminals by Jayla, played by Sofia Boutella, who looks like a white alien creature who acts human, and she's probably, in my opinion, my favorite character in the movie, and does a better job here than in the 2017 version of The Mummy, which will come next year. Scotty helps her, and Jayla helps him so she can leave the unknown planet. In another ship called the USS Franklin, and she's the one character I can connect with more than any of the characters that I'm thinking about it, as I sort of like them this time much better than last week. So let me just clear the air about something. She helps him, well, first he helps her get the USS Franklin all ready to go, and she helps him let his crewmates go. So just to clarify that part, Uhura and Sulu work together on getting out of Kroll's prison, and the alien passenger betrays Jim and Chekhov and calls Kroll, but they get out before they ever get caught, and the alien passenger gets squished. And the action sequences are kind of fun, but not as fun as the 2009 movie. Kroll has a confliction with the Federation, as it's from dialogue, I'll say, and he takes some medicine to keep the way he looks like, which I don't feel like doesn't make any sense. Like, he wants to become human again at best. I don't know. because I'll see at the end of that he'll become a human, and I swear to God, it's really hard to understand a damn thing he says, which annoyed the hell out of me. We learned Spook is trying to leave Starfleet. For what reasons? Maybe he's tired, but again, it's a guess. We switched to Jayla and Scotty playing Fight the Power from a Spike Lee movie called Do the Right Thing, and they bump into Jim and Chekhov, and they join along with them in the USS Franklin, and nobody noticed it. Why? Because she made it invisible, which was pretty clever. And they beamed Spook and Bones on board, and that worked great for humor and cliche reasons. And they debate whether or not to save the rest of the crew. And Spook has a high-tech jewelry put on Uhura's neck from what he gave her earlier before the breakup to track where the rest of the crew's location is. And Jayla reluctantly helps them out, saving the rest of the crew and fights the bad guys, which is a fun action sequence. Meanwhile, Scotty and Chekhov beams up the entire rest of the crew, and Spook saves Uhura, and Jim and Jayla make it alive. And again, I'm having an okay time, even though the plot is not that great. The USS Franklin flies after being on the ground for the longest time, and Kroll's ship does eventually catch up, gets to Federation and attacks them as Spook and Bones jump into one of the enemy ships and flies it, and Jim blows up the enemy ship, especially Kroll's, but gets in the Federation with the loud radio playing Sabotage, which is a good song, as it also played in the 2009 movie, and that moment entertained me, as this movie is very entertaining. But it does do a bad job of telling the villain's plot, and it's hard to understand a damn thing he says. Uhura finds out what Kroll looks like in human form, and is named Balthazar Edison. And the fact that the audience found out that late in the movie is very bad writing in general. And Balthazar sets up a weapon, and Jim catches up to him and asks, why would he do this? As Balthazar says he's lost faith in humanity, and they fight, and Jim stops the weapon from killing people, and Spook and Bones saves Jim's life, and Kroll is vanished, which is lazy writing. Jim decides to stay in the captain's chair, and Spook looks at a photograph of the original crew, which is a great cameo, and decides to stay as well. And the crew celebrates Jim's birthday, and as a climax, it worked like a B popcorn entertainment movie. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 5.9 out of 10. It was an okay time at the movies, but it was very entertaining for what it was. The script did have problems. There were times the writing was corny, but it does a really bad job of the plot of the villain Kroll, and it was really hard to understand him. I sort of liked the characters, and Jayla was the best character for clever reasons, but at the end of the day, it was a B popcorn entertainment movie with problems. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for the Star Trek series, and until whenever we get a next one, which there's rumors, but I'm not going to say when, punch it.